Hello and welcome to The Cardinal News of Virginia, a podcast from Cardinal News. We're a nonprofit independent newsroom serving Southwest and Southside Virginia at cardinalnews.org. I'm Lisa Rowan, filling in for Dutchy Jesse. The Cardinal podcast is sponsored by Garland Properties, leasing apartments and commercial spaces in Roanoke, Martinsville, and Pulaski, Virginia. Garland Properties, building healthy communities. Today, we're joined by Grace Mamon, a Cardinal reporter who covers the Danville area. Grace, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Lisa.
Grace, you recently reported on a group of Haitian immigrants living in Danville who lost their protected status in the U.S. The article is titled, "Violence at Home in Haiti and the Promise of a Good Job Brought Them to Danville. They Don't Know Where They'll Go Now." This is a national change in immigration policy, but you took a deep dive into what it means for this one small community in Danville. Tell us about the people that you spoke with and how this change impacts them.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. So I spoke with 5 members of Danville's Haitian community, and I spent the most time talking to a young couple, a man and a woman who often had their 1-year-old daughter with them, and then another young man. And everybody that I talked to had a different story about how they came to the U.S., where they traveled beforehand. And there was a couple of different protected statuses that they had. But the common thread through all of their stories was that there was instability, there was danger at home in Haiti, and they had come to the U.S. for better opportunities, primarily economic opportunities, to help their families back home, send money back home, and to have a better life for themselves as well. Several of them were working at Tyson Foods manufacturing plant in Danville on the front line and sending money home. But earlier this year, when their legal protected status ended, it also terminated their lawful status, their employment authorization. So they were no longer able to work at Tyson. So lots of changes for them this year in their ability to live and work in the U.S. So the changes in federal policy affected not only their ability to, pay their bills and provide for themselves and their families here, but also to send money home.
Now, for those people who aren't familiar with the Tyson Foods plant, what kind of manufacturing facility is that in Danville?
Yeah. So this facility opened a few years ago in Danville. They produce chicken at Tyson's Chicken, and it employs quite a number of immigrants to the U.S., not only folks from Haiti, but from other countries as well, as frontline workers.
This is something that the reason that Haitians in particular have this particular protected status in the U.S., according to your article, is because of the hurricane, or not the hurricane. I'm always thinking about hurricanes. This was an earthquake that took place in Haiti in 2010, which created a lot of unrest. The economy sort of fell apart there. And you wrote in your article that there has been gang violence and a lot of danger for the people of Haiti. That's why they have this right up until now to come to the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about the safety of these people and what they were concerned about, the option of particularly going back to Haiti?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the protected statuses that ended this year was for Haitians was called temporary protected status, or TPS. And that applied to countries where it was unsafe for people to live. And so Haiti first received the TPS designation in 2010 after that devastating earthquake. That has been renewed. I believe it's every 18 months. The federal government has to renew that designation. So since 2012 or 2010, it has been renewed every 18 months. So some of the folks who have immigrated to the U.S. from Haiti may have been here, over a decade if they came in those first couple years. So the people that I spoke to were here more recently. They came in 2023 and 2024, and they talked about political instability back home. They talked about gang violence, rampant crime, things like arson are very common. Pretty much everybody has lost somebody that I talked to. So one of the sources I spoke with, his mother and his baby sister had been killed as a result of some gang violence that was affecting their family. One of the other sources I spoke with was one of 11 children, and his mother was disabled. So he was really, his job here in the U.S. was really the main source of income for his family. So one of the other sources has had his home burned down an arson incident. And so they spoke about how their families back in Haiti really put a lot of hope and a lot of stock in them and their opportunities here in the US, and really relied on them kind of trying to uplift their entire families. Going back home to them is hopefully a last resort. They really don't want to have to do that. And so several of them are pursuing other options to re-obtain legal status to stay and work in the US. But they just described to me how they felt it was unsafe to return home, not only for them, but for the rest of their families as well.
Well, note that we're recording in early September. It was in this year, 2025, that the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security changed its terms for which countries had this protected legal status for immigrants to come to the U.S. The Trump administration has moved swiftly to enact many of its changes in the second term. And as of this recording, it appears the termination date for the protected status for Haitian immigrants has been extended from September to February of 2026. That could change between now and when people are listening. So just something to be aware of, that there have been a lot of fluctuations with the legal situation here for making these changes on the federal level.
Yeah, and speaking of those changes, that's one of the things that's been so confusing, is that the information they're receiving is constantly changing. They're kind of unsure about what is the truth and what really impacts them, and if that is going to stay that way. So there's a lot of kind of misunderstanding and confusion about what the changes actually mean for people.
And you did note in your article that there may be some other legal ways for these people to stay in the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know there may be a lot of details and circumstances there.
Yeah, so one of the sources I spoke to is an attorney in Salem, Virginia. She works for an immigration law firm where they deal with a lot of immigration policy. And recently, of course, this year, she's had a lot of people come to her, a lot of U.S. immigrants who are looking to find out more about what options they have. So she explained to me that, some people might have more avenues than they think as far as retaining that protected status or finding a different status that they can apply for. So some people might qualify for asylum if they feel that it's too dangerous to return home. Some people, in their time here may have married a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. Some of them may have a child that's now 21 years old who can petition for them. So there are a couple different options that she explained to me, and really just encouraged anyone who can to get in touch with an immigration attorney and talk more about their particular situation. Of course, she said, no immigration avenue is necessarily easy. Some are easier than others, and it depends on how a person came into the U.S., whether it was lawful or unlawful. But either way, we're talking about pretty high filing fees. We're talking about long wait times. So even though there are local attorneys and firms working with these people, there's no quick fix. So she kind of explained that the best way for community members to help or to support is to look into nonprofits that support immigration reform, or support legal help for these people, because it can be very expensive and the cost can be prohibitive.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about that Haitian community in Danville. What's the size of it, and how does it compare to the Haitian communities statewide?
Yeah, so actually before reporting on this story, I was unaware of the Haitian community in Danville. So I really appreciated getting to learn more about the community that I report in and meet these folks that, I didn't know beforehand. So it is a pretty small community. When I did my first interview in July, I believe there were about 17 people who had immigrated from Haiti to Danville. I know that number has changed a little bit because some of the sources that I spoke to have since left Virginia, looking for work elsewhere. But regardless, it's a pretty small number compared to, I think, almost 10,000 Haitian immigrants in Virginia. That figure is a few years old. I think it was a 2020 census, but several thousand Haitian immigrants in Virginia, and Danville has a very small number of them.
Okay. And so with such a small community in Danville, how did you go about finding out about this issue and then finding these particular people who were willing to talk to you about it?
Yeah. So this story actually came to me from a different source, a woman I have worked with in my reporting beforehand. She is involved in several different things around the community, and I, just see her around, and we talk about different stories, and she's helped me out with several things before. And she's a parishioner at a church, a local church that has been the place where these Haitian immigrants are worshiping. They participate in some Bible study and some Sunday services, and she and a group of other parishioners have been very generous with their time, trying to help these folks with job applications and getting, a birth certificate for the daughter that I mentioned. Also things just like donating baby toys and things like that. So she's been, spending a lot of time with them and doing whatever she can to kind of help them transition and find their space in Danville's community. So she first came to me when all of the federal changes came out earlier this year, kind of mostly just to ask some questions. She was confused about what exactly this meant, and she was hoping that Cardinal could help answer some of those questions, to do some reporting and kind of find out a little bit more about the situation. So I really relied on her to help set up my interviews with these folks, since she already knew them, and we were very fortunate to meet at the church, and she helped me get in touch with a translator. So it was a source that I had come across in my other reporting that led me to these new sources.
Yeah. Speaking of a translator, those who have read the article may know that it was sort of a process to talk with some of these people who are relative newcomers to the U.S. and may not be proficient in English at this point. So tell me a little bit about the process of interviewing these people and dealing with those language barriers.
Yeah, it was challenging. It was unlike any other interview that I had done. So the first time I sat down with them, we had a translator with us. I speak English. The Haitian immigrants spoke Haitian Creole, but our translator spoke Spanish. So one of the young men from Haiti also spoke kind of broken Spanish from his time traveling through other Central American countries before coming to the U.S. So I would ask the translator a question in English. She would translate it into Spanish for him, and then he would translate it into Haitian Creole for the rest of the group. And to get the answer would go that same way, but in reverse. So of course, there were definitely some things lost in communication. We also used Google Translate. And the second time I sat down with them, we exclusively used Google Translate. Not everything comes across exactly, of course, but, getting the general gist of their stories and getting the general feeling, I think did come through despite the language barrier.
Yeah, this is a good reminder for anyone out there who might be considering a career in journalism. Speaking a second language is always a good feature to have. So if you're thinking of picking up a second language, Grace and I think would recommend it. Another issue that came up with this story was the issue of safety around these very vulnerable people who are here in the U.S. and may be in danger of needing to leave. Tell me about the decision to change some of their names for this article.
Yeah, so that was a decision I made with the help and approval of my editors. Basically, we mentioned that timeline or that deadline a little bit ago about when the protected status actually ends. And immigrants with those statuses that are being terminated are asked to self-deport, which basically means return home before that deadline. If they don't do that by the deadline, then they are at risk of forcible deportation. So I know several of the sources that I spoke with are, like I said, pursuing requests for asylum or other ways to stay in the U.S. And so because of that risk and that sensitive situation, we chose not to share their real names as not to interfere with that process and to not endanger them further while they're figuring all of this out.
Got it. And I know that there's a lot that we don't know about ultimately what's going to happen with these people that you spoke with. I know it's something that may come up in the future. We may not, hear from them again. But I know that you did get some feedback from readers after this article came out, and someone volunteered to interpret if you need help next time.
Yeah, I had a couple texts and emails from readers who were Haitian Americans who had been in the U.S. for a number of years and spoke English and Haitian Creole fluently. So they had offered, if you pursue follow-ups to the story, if you need help with translation in the future, let me know, which was very encouraging. And then also just messages of moral support and solidarity with the sources in my story. So those were nice messages to receive, and just kind of a reminder that there is a community here. There are people willing to help. And I like you said, I'm not sure what's going to happen with these particular folks that I spoke to, but I'd love translation help in the future. So that was a welcome offer.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex topic that you dug into, and I appreciate you being here today to really break it down for us, especially those who may not be familiar with these sorts of immigration issues that are taking place here in local communities like Danville, across the state, and ultimately across the nation. So, thank you, Grace. And if your listeners and readers want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so my Cardinal email is grace, GRACE, at cardinalnews.org. That's probably the best way to reach me. I answer all my emails. And then also my phone number is 540-369-5464. So you can always give me a call too.
Very cool, very brave for a reporter to give out their phone number just like that on the air. Thank you so much. That is awesome. Thank you for being here, Grace.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.
And thank you for listening to the Cardinal News of Virginia. Thanks to our sponsor, Garland Properties, and also to Sean Eddy of Eddy Alexander for production support, and to Cardinal News' Zach Shelton. Read all of our paywall-free local news coverage at cardinalnews.org. I'm Lisa Rowan. Thanks.